Well, it's a real pleasure for me to introduce Kitty Piercy, who's been mayor of Eugene since 2005. You know, I can't think of a harder job than following Colleen, yes, but also being mayor of Eugene. You know, it's got to be very hard to try to balance interest from Tea Partiers to developers to progressives to populists like me. It's quite a range, and it's hard to satisfy the whole range. And I know that Kitty is trying her best to be progressive and move Eugene forward in a way that works for everybody. So, Kitty Piercy.
Well, actually, I have to say I am honored to be in this room with the people that are here. And I am humbled by being here as well. And my role tonight is to talk about the local level, particularly as it affects local governance. And I feel I want to begin, I guess I want to say something that's not, I spent a lot of time working on what I was going to say tonight. But I will start out by saying, you know, that I'm just an ordinary person. I'm just you that happened to get elected to this position. I was a teacher, a mother, a grandmother, an activist, and people asked me to step forward to take these roles that I've taken, and so I have taken them, much as we're all asked to take certain roles in our lives, and try to live up to what those mean. So I'll begin tonight by recognizing things that we've heard a lot about. That saying water affects everything in our lives, from the most personal to the overarching. We are, after all, composed of water, and our very lives dependent on it. It's part of our creation and will be part of whether the human race continues to exist. From the beginning of time, where we live, and how we get along with our neighbors has been all about water. Here in Lane County and in Eugene, we are defined by our rivers, streams, and riparian areas. The greenness we treasure comes to us because of the water resources we have. It is a precious source of beauty and natural habitat for native plants and wildlife. It's what brings people here to live and keeps them here and makes us all feel so fortunate to be in this place. Water is not just iconic, but it is vital to our quality of life. Eugene is here because of the confluence of the Willamette and McKenzie rivers, and we're fortunate to have these sources. While the ocean seems far away, it is also close and provides us with food, habitat, and beauty. Mountains are close, where we depend on snowfall to nourish our water supply and have their own habitat, purpose, and beauty. Rivers and riparian zones and forest health have much to say about our quality of life and our quality of water. We do not live here unconnected or in isolation. While we have readily available sources close at hand, surface water is vulnerable to contamination, and we've heard a lot about that tonight, and mismanagement. Early in Eugene's history, a cholera outbreak prompted the community to come together to protect its drinking water source. Eugene Water and Electric Board was formed initially as a citizen water board and continues to exist as a critical partner of the city that has just celebrated its 100th year. They have a huge role in keeping our water some of the cleanest in the country and protecting our watersheds. While there is an abundance of clean water, or relatively clean water, we need to get away from thinking of water strictly as a commodity whose availability and quality we take for granted. This is a luxury we can no longer afford. It is a vital resource that must be protected. We need to be sure our community fully understands its value and is willing to support programs and infrastructure that will maintain watershed health and quality in drinking. As mayor, I have heard both community and council members say that City Council of Eugene should have no say about anything outside of its borders. How can that be so? Our water and our lives are dependent on the snowpack in the mountains, the ocean's health, the conditions of our forests and our faraway riparian zones. We must have a true and consistent understanding of these connections and take responsibility. That is why I speak out as mayor about forest practices, global warming, and ocean health. We need to minimize upstream impacts from forest practices and farming. Programs to promote organic farming practices and reduced chemical use have gotten a lot of pesticides out of the Mackenzie. Economic systems can support these goals. For example, some emerging government programs compensate farmers and ranchers for putting their lands in trust to preserve riparian habitat and the benefits it provides for wildlife and watershed health. Emerging markets, so-called ecosystem services, allow for the trading of these benefits. These same benefits are provided by our wetlands. I don't know if you've had a chance to go to our wetlands here. If you have not, you should have somebody take you to our wetlands here. We have one of the greatest prairie wetlands in the country here. And it is a remarkable partnership between people who took land that had gone to be farmland and returned it to being prairie wetland. It was, it was to protect the integrity of the wetlands in West Eugene that led me to oppose the West Eugene Parkway. If you lived here, you would know about the West Eugene Parkway. In my first year as mayor, I did the, sort of like dropping a bomb in the community. I voted no on a parkway going through the wetlands. And I still hear about it every day. But it was the right thing to do. These prairie wetlands are significant in the unique public-private partnership that came together to restore them and in the national recognition they receive. They are a great place for teaching and really in flood prevention capacity. Think of the destroyed wetlands in New Orleans. One of the reasons for the flooding of the 9th Ward in New Orleans was because the wetlands that protected the people from the ocean's impact had been removed. Other local efforts of stewardship are in our stormwater program, where we reduce toxics from being washed into our rivers and streams and our wastewater system. We use poplar farms to neutralize toxic sludge and have removed 95% of pollutants from going into our rivers. As we face the prospect of population increases and climate change in our region, we will feel additional pressures on the availability and quality of our water resources. Climate change will impact our water supply, and we need to prepare for it. We'll have reduced snowpack, more rain earlier in the year, and reduced flows in the summer. This means less water available when it's most needed. While the Mackenzie is primarily a spring-fed river and less vulnerable, we can still expect to feel the pinch in the late summer when the flows are at their lowest. We expect to see more people moving to Eugene in the Northwest as climate change makes the rest of the country less habitable. This will only increase the demand on our water supply at a time when it may be difficult to meet it. It's also fair to say that we have not even begun to tap our potential for water conservation. There are some efforts to encourage vegetation that is not so water needy and to replace grass with other types of plants. There are a few efforts to recapture and reuse water. There are some who have moved to household appliances that require less water usage and have adopted less intensive water usage personal habits. But in truth, we have been so used to having so much water that we have really, really not taken it seriously at all. We share this vulnerability with many of our neighboring communities. In fact, many of our neighbors around us don't have the Mackenzie and the Willamette coming right into them, and so they already are feeling a water shortage. Over the years, there has been a balkanization of drinking water and wastewater facilities, with each community spending millions for what is duplication in infrastructure. We need to address the barriers to a more regionalized, collaborative approach to managing our water resources with wisdom. I expect more partnering, consolidation, and sharing of infrastructure as the increasing demands on our natural resources. It just makes sense. We'll be called upon to look at the interest of economic well-being, natural resource protection, and social equity, and it won't be easy. I heard you talk about sustainability, and when I talked about that economic well-being, natural resource protection, and social equity, that's sort of the triple bottom line of sustainability, which we are trying very hard to learn to use well in our community for every decision that we make, so that we never make a decision just on the basis of money, and so that we never make a decision just on the basis of the natural resources, or not just because of people, but that we look at all those things, because people must have jobs to live, and people must have natural resources to live, and people must be able to make a living. So all those things have to come together, and it won't be easy. Eugene Water and Electric Board and the city are exploring relationships with other communities and utilities, looking for ways to reduce risk, be good stewards, and meet demand. We have a law in this state that requires that you must use the water in order to retain water rights. That seems a little perverse to me. It's like you must use it all up or it will be taken away from you, instead of you being rewarded for conserving and protecting your water and thinking out into the future. If there's anything that I think we should be able to address, it's that kind of law that we have in our state that pushes us in exactly the opposite direction of what we should be going. A number of collaborative efforts are underway and more are emerging. For example, several Willamette Valley communities met recently to explore the benefits of a regional compact for climate resilience. Water was one of the main topics discussed. At the same time, there are still debates about climate change and regional planning among policymakers. There's a lot of shared vulnerability and shared interest, and we'll try to use those to find new and effective ways to work together on these challenges. I've always sort of taken an attitude, sometimes you just have to be practical. So if I can't get somebody to do the right thing because it's the right thing, then I'll try to find out what it is that they think is in their interest to make them do the right thing. Work it, right. Over the last few years, we've been working in Eugene at how to have better conversations with each other across political divides. We did that with the Sustainable Business Initiative, the West Eugene Collaborative, and now with Envision Eugene. That is, how do you have a conversation with people who have fundamental differences of opinion and try to find the thread of common interest that helps you move forward together? That is what we have to do in our city, and that is what we have to do in this world. I will give you one example because it's such a heartening thing for me, and I think after we talk about all the challenges we have and all the things that we face, I think you need something that's kind of gives you hope. So when we are dealing with trying to figure out better transportation and land use plans for out in West Eugene, we brought together people who argued over that parkway I told you about. They were fierce enemies and shouted at each other and yelled at each other and fought with each other for 20 years over that parkway. And once I said we're not going to build it because it's not good for the wetlands and it's not good for the community, I brought together the people who had yelled at each other and put them around a table together. And then we started talking about not what our differences were, we started to talk about what we wanted for our community. And as we sat around the table and talked about what we wanted for our community, I will tell you, these people, and some of them, many people in this room probably wouldn't like it all, but I want to tell you that almost everyone around there, I'd say they were about a 98% agreement about what they wanted for the future of their community. It is worth the look. It is worth the looking to find the good things in each of us. Back to the seat. We can no longer afford a wasteful or wanton attitude about water. It's too important to our way of life and our ecologies. Stan asked me, he said, when he wrote me and asked me to come speak tonight, he said to me, did I hear that you forced them not to use bottled water at the table, the council table? And I said, well, it kind of went like this. I kept saying, we have good water. Why are we using bottled water? And then eWeb was looking at that's Eugene Water Board and Electric Board, was watching one of our council meetings, and they sent me an email and said, we'll send pitchers over for you to put our water in to serve at the table. So now we have the blue Eugene Water Electric Board pitcher sitting at our table with water in it instead of the plastic bottles, and that's what people drink around the table. Yay. We need to work together to carry out stewardship that is needed. It's how we came together over 100 years ago when we recognized the importance of collective action to preserve water quality. We need to fully recognize access to clean water as a human right that is part of our city's human rights framework. We must think beyond our borders and care about all life on our planet and the interconnectedness of our needs and resources and our shared humanity. In the spirit of this conference, this consciousness and effort can help us to prevent strife that comes with scarcity or selfishness, and to survive in peace on this planet for generations to come. It all begins here in your house and in mine, in our city, in our region, in our decisions that we make together. Thank you very much.
So I'd like to thank our presenters all once again for all they've done. I want to remind people there are a number of events coming up in the next couple of days. You can tune into some of the Winneman events either by going to their website, Winneman, let me just make sure I get this right. It's Winneman, wintu.us. And of course, the Lane Peace Center site, all you have to do is go to Lane Community College's website, and once that comes up, type in Peace Center after the end of that Lane Community College website, and our website will come up as well, so you can see what we're doing. You know, I want to say that this event is a wonderful combination, bringing together educators, policymakers, politicians, and First Peoples. And I think this is the kind of collaboration we need to begin to make the changes that we've been talking about, is coming together and understanding one another. So I want to thank all of you who've come to share this event with us. And I know there's still a lot of brownies and other food.